Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we're joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and there has been a lot of news coming out of the stock market recently. Well, I mean, this year has been a cluster, you know what, with the stock market when we have highs, lows, highs again. We're probably heading for lows pretty soon again. And I mean, this is really indicative of how absurdly manipulated the stock market is to begin with. And on top of that, with the elections in 2020, we have a lot to look for in the stock market. Obviously, again, the stock market being hugely indicative leading up to the election of who's going to win the election. Anyway, I want to go into this article out of Market Watch that says the only path to a sharply higher stock market is a bubble like the late 1920s and 1990s, says analyst who called rally off March lows. And as this article goes into, a greater fool stock market might be at hand if a popular valuation measure continues to press higher, potentially kicking off another bubble to rival the late 1920s and 1990s, warned a Wall Street veteran who called the market's rally off the March lows, Barry Bannister, head of institutional equity strategy at Stifel. So we're going to get into this and more because we are facing a really crazy time. Well, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys. Obviously, this whole year has been insane, but it's about to get crazier if this goes in the way that I think a lot of you are assuming that it's probably going to. But before we get into that, make sure to hit the like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning, and join us at www.iambanned.com. Join our newsletter there. It takes 2 seconds to put your email in. Also find us on LBRY, Flote, and BitChute, linked below, as we won't be on YouTube much longer. And I think it's really important to show you guys this. This is a PFT privacy protector. It's a Faraday cage for your phone that keeps you safe, your health safe, and your privacy safe. So make sure to find the link below, click on that link, go over and purchase one of these PFT privacy protectors. Dan Dix at Press for Truth put a lot of effort into finding the right materials and getting this going. So make sure to check that out at the link below. Anyway, let's get into this news. As I mentioned previously, there are a lot of experts talking about a massive bubble. Obviously, if you've been paying attention, we've already been in a bubble for quite some time, and it's just been overly manipulated. It starts to crash, and then the Fed comes in and throws a bunch of money at bonds, and we see this carry over to the stock market, and we just see just an absolutely manipulated market. We have this article, which is originally out of Business Insider, but they put an ad wall. So anyway, as it says, stock market crash. Expert says market hypervalued is about to dive. And this is a sentiment of a lot of institutional investors lately. It says after 2 days of violent sales, it is undeniable that the nervousness in the market is palpable. After months of relatively free gains on Thursday, the NASDAQ composite fell 5%, the S&P 500 fell 3.5%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost more than 800 points, plunging 2.8% Friday. More pain ensued. John Hussman, the outspoken investor and former professor who predicted a stock market crash, thinks a math is long overdue. Overall, and I quote, overall, we have a hypervalued market which we associate with the worst potential market returns over 10 to 12 years in the history of the U.S. financial markets. With extreme bullish sentiment, lukewarm participation, magnitude, and leadership, as well as diverging implied volatility, he wrote in a recent customer note. Hussman provided his estimated 12-year annual total return for a conventional portfolio, 60% stocks, 30% bonds, 10% cash, blue line, against actual 12-year returns for this wallet, red line, to help demonstrate thinking. On August 28th, his projections implied a return of 0.95% over the next 10 to 12 years. This is the lowest ever. You know it's a bubble when you need to change the y-axis and on all of your charts because valuations have passed every all-time high and estimated future market returns have fallen past the highest points down in history, including 1929, he said. Hussman provided additional historical context to support this thesis, and we're not going to go into all of that, but this is a very similar sentiment to a lot of major investors out there. The S&P 500's valuation, as a Zero Hedge article says, just surpassed the dot-com bubble. So we're hearing this word bubble a lot, and we have articles like this out of Zero Hedge that say Bank of America sees S&P 500 closing the year anywhere between 2,200 to 4,000. And as we record this video, this is where the S&P 500 index is looking 3,426. Anyway, Tim, obviously, well, now you're a certified financial planner. So again, if you want to check the links below for www.thelibertyadvisor.com, you can become a client at Tim Picciott. Tim, what do you think of all this insanity? We're getting sideswiped by more crazy market volatility and stuff that we predicted for a long time. What do you think?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of things that should not be going on in parallel. So right now, I mean, obviously, notwithstanding the past 2 days and the market was down, pretty big, relatively speaking. We're seeing a lot of the indexes near at the all-time highs, minus the past 2 days. But you're also seeing the volatility rising up as well. So a lot of times when you're hitting all-time highs, it's because you're expecting things to, there's a relative calm going on. Everyone is optimistic. But then why do you have the VIX index, surge? That's a volatility index, surged a lot last week. In order to hedge your positions, so to speak, to kind of protect your portfolio, it's one of the most expensive ever right now to do so. So, riddle me this, why are, we at these all-time highs? Well, I mean, we know why, central bank and money printing. So I guess just answer the riddle. But why are we at these all-time highs? But then we also have the volatility that is just off the charts or getting off the charts. Now the CAPE ratio, we didn't even kind of compare notes on what we're going to talk about. And the very first thing I wrote down in my notes was CAPE ratio. And what that is it's you take the PE ratio, without boring everybody. Basically, the higher it is, the more overvalued the market is. And what really is important is when you're in that top quintile of being the most expensive, the forward return, the 10-year forward returns are abysmal historically, and we've been camped out in that space for quite a bit. But it's really a double whammy here, where not only you're getting the companies are not even a lot of them aren't even earning nearly as much money. You're also seeing companies where these indexes are being dominated by companies like Apple. I guess Tesla isn't in didn't make the S&P 500, but all these big the MAGA companies, so Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, those companies are basically driving everything, while the breadth and depth of the entire market, a lot of the companies are hitting actually 52-week lows, or they're not advancing, but yet the index is going higher because it's led by companies like Apple, again, notwithstanding this past week, certainly for Apple and Tesla. But yeah, it's just things that you don't really normally see. I know in 1929, I believe, I'm not looking at the market right now, but I believe you had a big downturn like we saw in March, and then you saw the market kind of get right back up to where it was before, and then I don't know what it was, like 13 more years of basically malaise of the government trying to quote unquote help, and that's when it took like World War II and again, World War II did not get us out of it, but yeah, we had to go through a lot of crap, and people want to say FDR got us out of it, but yeah.
Well, and if you want to actually look at the past performance of the stock market leading up to the 1929 crash, it's actually interesting if you guys know your history that there was a major dip earlier on in the year in 1929, which was then greeted with more speculation, more money being thrown at it. We actually saw a rise in the stock market, and then suddenly we had that, what some might call an October surprise, and everything collapsed on everyone's heads. And then JP Morgan came up and started buying up a bunch of stocks, and everyone thought everything was about to improve. Don't worry, the sky's the limit. The shoot shine boy kind of situation was happening, and then as we know, it collapsed even further down, and everyone lost their heads, basically. I mean, everyone basically lost everything they had, and unfortunately, speculation and greed is a big player in the market. But unfortunately, on top of that is something even worse than that, which obviously speculation and greed can lead to a lot of people losing a lot just based on, well, it has to go out, it has to keep going up for no fundamental reason. But on top of that, what you have is right now the Fed just printing insane amounts of money. I mean, banks are printing a bunch of money. They're buying up bonds, and in some cases they're buying up foreign bonds, and it just doesn't make any sense at this point. Obviously, none of this is rational, and obviously when nothing is rational and you have a major bubble, and it obviously is a bubble in my opinion, you will end up seeing widespread destruction leading out of that at some point in time. When, I don't know, but it has to happen.
One of the biggest indications if someone's going to be president or not is the stock market performance from 2 months out from the election. And, isn't it funny that basically right on cue, 2 months out from the election is right when the market starts going down. It was actually the premise of the very first podcast I ever made the week of the election in 2016. And this is after Trump was elected. I then put that basically I put that out there that what was probably going to happen is they're going to they're going to first kind of like let him kind of run with it, get way too cocky, because as Donald Trump is famously very cocky and full of himself, and then that'd be too easy to not take credit for all of that, and then now obviously he's going to get the blame. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, it's just I was predicting that something like this would happen, because there's an 86% correlation between the incumbent party winning and if the market is higher in those 2 months that are preceding. And so, they're pulling the rug out from him. I mean, now you're seeing even reports of, and this goes back to, advertising for your for the Press for Truth. What do you call it? The EMP package shield?
Well, it's a privacy protector, the PFT privacy protector, which you can see on the screen here.
But you're even seeing now the Department of Homeland Security is preparing for EMP attacks right before the election to try to mess with the election. This is coming straight from, not that I really trust the Department of Homeland Security, but, it could be one way to not only, shield yourself from all the harmful radiation, but also, and spying, but also, have your device actually work if case there is. And we didn't, pre-plan this plug, obviously, or else I messed that one up. But yeah, we've got the election, heading into the election. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. And no matter who wins, guess what? I think it's pretty much out there right now in the ethos that no one's going to know who wins the night of the election, or then it's probably going to be challenged. And that uncertainty is then going to create more, what the market really hates more than anything. They'd rather have bad news than not know what the news is going to be. And so, I guess a prognostication, and obviously, I don't have a crystal ball over here. We did just come from Sedona where there are a lot of crystal balls. But anyways, I really think that you're going to see the market just absolutely get walloped in the aftermath of the election and in the run-up to the election as well, because we're not going to know who won, and the market is going to force hey, look, we need to have Trump step down and concede the election because it's going to be, he needs to be good for America. I mean, you already can see all the predictive programming that's going on, whether on both sides of this. But yeah, from a market valuation standpoint, it's just crazy. I mean, imagine telling somebody in January, oh yeah, this is how the year is going to play out, but not telling them how the stock market would play out.
Well, Tim, I want to hear your strategizing with this with your clients, what you can say, obviously, regarding what you're going, because obviously there's so much uncertainty, and the market could just the Fed could just throw a bunch of money at bonds. Maybe we will see the market continue on up way higher than we're at right now, but obviously it's been a bubble, in my opinion, since below 20,000 on the Dow. I mean, I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense for it to be at this point anymore, but obviously there's a lot of manipulation. How do you strategize and how do you invest when you're dealing with such an irrational market that's obviously so manipulated? How do you do that for your clients and actually get out safe?
Well, it is hard to give an answer just because of how, regulated the industry is and things that I can and can't say. And it's going to be different, obviously, for, if you're 65 years old and are sitting on, millions of dollars versus if you're just trying to, get by and you barely have enough or you're not going to have enough and you're maybe never going to retire. So everyone's going to have something a little bit different, but we're definitely a lot more cautious right now. We have a lot more in, I guess, basically short-term instruments, basically kind of hoping that, not say hoping that there's going to be a crash, but anticipating that there's going to be a crash. And for some of the older people that are out there, I've been very negative on bonds for basically since I've been in the industry, for no other reason than the fact that with bonds, people get them for safety and they get them for income, except right now they're not very safe at all, because if you have interest rates going up with the Fed losing control eventually, then those bonds are going to get absolutely decimated. So if you have $1 million 10-year bond, rates go up 1%, your $1 million is now about, let's see here. So I'm trying to do the math after. So you get 10-year bond, it's going to be, you lose about 10% on there. So your $1 million is now about $900,000, rates go up 2%, probably about $780,000. And these are not crazy to think that, the rates going up 2% in an environment where even mainstream analysts are saying that the debt can never be repaid, which I don't know, it took them this long to figure that out.
Well, it took us not that long to figure it out because many of us have been talking about this for many, many years, and I'm not an expert on the stock market. Tim is. I'm not an expert on the stock market, and I could see this years and years and years ago coming at us. And, it's just crazy because suddenly all these institutional investors and these Keynesians and all these people that have suddenly come out of the woodwork saying what we've been saying for years, now everyone's supposed to try. It's so crazy. It's taken them this long. And I think in a lot of cases they knew this was going to happen, but they're covering their butts now. They wanted to send people. It's like Larry Fink tells everyone to buy and then 1 week later tells everyone to sell, and it says that he's been telling everyone to sell the whole time, even though he was telling everyone to buy. I mean, just these people are pieces of work. I mean, you have Paul Krugman, for example, coming out of the woodwork, and even he has been made a few, claims lately, oh, it looks like we might be heading into a recession. Really, Paul Krugman? It looks like we're possibly heading into a recession. You mean it's not rational for the markets to be going way, way, way up while everyone's out of work? work and everyone's losing their jobs and everyone is being pushed on the street? You mean it doesn't make sense for that to happen? Wow. Thanks for the info. Thanks for your genius, Paul Krugman. I really appreciate it. Meanwhile, many of us have been talking about the obvious fundamentals and the lack thereof in many cases for many, many years in the stock market, and we were called crazy conspiracy theorists, and now literally the top experts in the field that everyone on television loves so much are saying the same things we've been saying for years.
Well, maybe Paul Krugman thinks since it is 2020, maybe there's going to be an alien attack or something, and then he thinks that will get us out of the recession.
As long as that alien attack breaks some windows and stimulates the economy.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I mean, back, I think it was like 2009 or 10, Paul Krugman said we need to pretend that there's an alien attack, so then that way, if there was, then we would spend money like no tomorrow, and we wouldn't think about debts and deficits, and that's where that comes from. And it is 2020, so who the heck knows what's going on now?
And we find out all this information via the fax machine. Anyway, I appreciate you going into this. There's a lot more to talk about, but obviously we have to cut it short as per usual because there's just too much.
Yeah, almost too much to talk about. Otherwise, we'd just be like 5-hour video, but no one wants that. So.
Yeah, no one wants that. People get complain when it's like 15 minutes long. So yeah. Anyway, I appreciate everyone watching, and we'll continue to go into this. Obviously, we're entering into a very shady territory, and no one quite knows exactly what's going to happen next. But fundamentals tell us that this is not going to end well in the short term. I would say that there's a good chance that we're going to see a complete sell-off in the next, possibly around election day, and this is just my opinion. And if it doesn't happen and we see it go the opposite direction, we see Fed printing a bunch of money and all that, and say it goes the exact opposite of what I think it might what I think might happen, one way or another, when it comes to fruition that everyone has lost their business, all these small businesses have gone under once they run out of cash around the end of the year, early in 2021, and if they do another shutdown and all this kind of stuff, it's not going to end well. But as per usual,
and we didn't even, we're just going to tease me for another future video, but we didn't even get into how the CDC is now America's new landlord and no one can be evicted per the CDC, which isn't even a government entity, it's a charity.
Yeah, we have a combination of fascism and communism. It's the perfect move into Chinese fascio-communism or technocracy, really.
We'll never be a socialist country. We'll go straight to fascio-communism first.
Yeah, it's like, great, thanks. Well, and the empire is falling, my friends, but as per usual, it always comes down to you. What are you doing as an individual? It's not about what the government's doing, because the government is going to try and find new ways to control you and screw you over one way or another. It's about what you as individuals are doing. Are you individualistic in your mindset? Are you independent? Independence is the basis of freedom and responsibility at the end of the day, and it comes down to you to ensure your own freedom. And of course, you can go to the links below and become a client of Tim Picciott at thelibertyadvisor.com. That's all linked below. And as I said, for the sake of your privacy, you can get the PFT Privacy Protector. Again, all linked below. And of course, we are completely viewer funded because we were demonetized for daring to talk about the truth. So go find me, Patreon, Subscribestar. All those very much help, and hitting that like button helps as well. But more importantly, yeah, just find us on the other platforms like flote.app, flote.app, where I'm coming up on, I think, 4,200 followers on there. People are really moving over there, and it's really great to see. And we have people like James Corbett and Del Bigtree, and we have people like, even InfoWars is streaming on there and all that kind of stuff. Go to flote.app, and also find me on LBRY. The movement towards LBRY is growing really fast, as well as BitChute. Find those links below. I really appreciate everyone joining us today. And of course, join our newsletter at www.iamband.com. It takes 2 seconds to put your email in there. We won't spam you, and it helps keep us alive. So I really appreciate that. There's so many things to talk about, my friends. Yeah, happy Labor Day, guys. It's just gotten to the point of no return, and we have to be focused on what are we doing. It's past the point of educating. We hope to educate as many people as we can at the same time, but seriously, at this point, if you're not doing anything to help yourself, it's really hard to give you any kind of advice or opinions or whatever, because at this point, we're running off the edge of a cliff along with the rest of the cattle, and it's about time that you pin yourself to the cliff and use a bungee.
And the election is basically like, do you want to run off the cliff at 90 miles an hour or 150 miles an hour is pretty much, what the election comes down to. So you got to take care of it yourself. No one's going to go, give you the power that you need to empower yourself. You've got to do that yourself. And
nobody's going to help you. Rich Paul will help you. So somebody out there understands what I just said there. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone joining us. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube. And we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.